It's a lot of connecting with people to figure out who are the right people. How can you serve others?
Your network is your net worth.
Sometimes you can find it, and sometimes you also need to create it in your own community.
Community engagement leads to increased business success and a stronger sense of belonging. Hey there, freedom fighters. Ever feel like you're on an island trying to build your business and your marriage at the same time?
Well, we've got news for you. It doesn't have to be that way. Today, we're diving into the incredible power of community in fueling your journey as entrepreneurial couples.
Speaking of maintaining our entrepreneurial spirit, I want to take a moment to share something that's been instrumental in my own journey towards uncommon freedom. My book, The 7 Disciplines of Uncommon Freedom, dives deep into how we can break free from the currents that often hold us back in life and business.
Oh, I love the analogy that you use in the book about always rowing upstream. Can you share a little bit about that with our listeners?
Absolutely. It's actually one of my favorite things to talk about. I probably think about the concept every single day. I discuss it with our kids every single day, have conversations with people that we work with and coach every single day, and use this upstream analogy. And the really cool thing is a lot of the people that I interact with have started to use this concept as they're talking with me. And so I know it's really catching some steam. In life, and especially in entrepreneurship, we're often surrounded by what I call lazy rivers. We're frequently in them. And it's so easy to just float along, letting circumstances dictate where we end up, right? When you're in a lazy river, you just go, actually, even if it's not a lazy river swimming pool style, it might be the place where you go rafting, in a river, that's an outdoor type of river. But you don't get to pick where you end up. Ultimately, the current is going to carry you, and the direction that the river runs is going to dictate where you go. But the reality is, true freedom, the uncommon kind that we talk about, requires us to always row upstream.
I don't know who actually came up with the saying, but it was that our gravitational pull is to mediocrity, not to excellence. And I feel like nothing could be more true than in our current society, as we kind of sense that happening in our world right now. And so we're noticing it. And I think that's really powerful. So that resonates with our topic today about self-care for entrepreneurs. It's not always the easy path, is it?
No, the reality is the good path is always going to be the hard path. Our good friend John Maxwell, who I just spent over a week with in Greece, pretty amazing, talks about the fact that it's uphill. You're going the right direction when you're going uphill. You're going the right direction when you're rowing upstream. And what I like about the upstream analogy is, it takes no effort to go downstream. When you're in that lazy river, to go with the current, it takes no effort. And there's two ways: is you can either just float with it, and that's kind of a mediocre type approach, and then
going with the flow.
Yeah, or you can actually paddle downstream.
Right.
And using this analogy, those are people who are like acting foolishly. They're going into
accelerating
significant
their demise.
Right. They're drug addicts, they're alcoholics, they're spouse abusers, or maybe they're just foolish with their health, they're foolish with their finances. But the flip side is, going upstream takes intentional effort. And there's going to be seasons where you can go upstream faster. You're going to be paddling more feverishly. And there's going to be seasons where you're just paddling consistently. But either way, you're going the right direction when you're tired, when it's hard, because that indicates that you're going upstream.
But I also think there's a sense of accomplishment. So, it's like it is difficult. It is going to be it's going to take discipline. And so It kind of sounds like it's a little bit more negative, but I think the truth is you have a lot of purpose and accomplishment when you can see the progress you're making, where when you go downstream, it takes little to no effort.
The reality is it doesn't take effort. You can, you can steer from one side to the other. It's not easy, but it is worth it. So in the book, I talk about how rowing upstream means making conscious decisions in every area of our lives: health, finances, relationships, and spirituality, among others. And it's about choosing the harder, but ultimately more rewarding path, right? We love the saying, it's either the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. And going upstream is choosing the pain of discipline versus the the pain of regret.
And again, I think another thing that John Maxwell says is he'll talk about, we have uphill dreams and downhill habits.
Yes.
Or the way we've described it to our kids is, the life you live with us in our home nowadays is an A+ type of life, but you can't make C- decisions and lead to an A+ life. And it's not that our life is perfect by any stretch of the imagination. So maybe A+ is not the best example, but basically, we've had to make pivots and decisions along the way to move from C- to a B from a B+ to an A to get the lifestyle that we have today, which isn't just what the things that we own, or the money that we make. It's really the quality of our relationships. It's the time we get together. It's the intentionality of which we lead our lives. So a lot of that is just built into seasons of multiple layering of healthy decisions over time.
Yeah, and choose whatever description you want. The promised land is upstream. The American dream is upstream. Every positive thing that we actually strive for is upstream. Now, most people aren't willing to do the work, but I love the promised land analogy because when you think of the story of the Exodus, right, the promised land took effort to get to, right? God told them, you're going to go to the promised land. He did tons of miracles, but it was still actually hard work. They had to walk through the desert. They had to cross the Red Sea. And yes, God did a miracle for them to walk through, but just still imagine, it's not like it was easy for them to take everything that they owned and their entire families and walk through the Red Sea. So the reality is, to get to the promised land, whether it's from a spiritual standpoint or from a material, physical, earthly standpoint, either way, it's upstream. And you have to make that decision. Am I going to put in the discipline of rowing upstream consistently, or am I just going to go with the flow? Because you can remain in Egypt and be a slave and maybe even enjoy the fruits of slavery, right? They talked about the cantaloupe and the melons and the meat or whatever. So you can remain. There are some benefits to staying in Egypt and going downstream. But in the grand scheme of things, at the end of your life, you're definitely going to say, man, I wish I had gone upstream.
And anyone who knows the Old Testament knows that the Israelites took the very, very long road to get where they needed to go.
Many of us.
Yes, absolutely. And one other quote, since we're on that, we're on kind of a quote binge here. Somebody else would, I think it's a Jim Rohn quote. He says, don't wish it was easier, wish you were better. Mm-hmm. And it's easy to say and hard to do, but I think it's important because the truth is we never really improve ourselves in a downstream flow. We don't actually grow as people to become better. We don't improve relationships, all the things. So,
you don't work your muscles when you're going downstream,
right?
The strength comes from going upstream.
Absolutely. And that ties right into setting clear goals and developing consistent routines, which we discussed earlier.
Yep. And the book goes into detail about what I call the trinity of uncommon freedom, which includes always rowing upstream, getting to one, and upgrading your circle. 3 things. You can even think about them as 3 habits that are essential to find uncommon freedom. And these principles or habits can really transform how entrepreneurs, and really anyone who wants to get more out of life and be more productive, reach their potential, maximize their impact, how they approach their personal and professional lives.
Well, I can attest to that. And for our listeners who want to dive deeper into these concepts, where can they find your book?
Well, the 7 Disciplines of Uncommon Freedom is available on Amazon and Audible. By the way, if you happen to see a workbook, last time I looked, there's 3 workbooks that are just people trying to piggyback off of my hard work. So those are not official workbooks. So ignore those, but you can get the book on Amazon or Audible. To purchase, just click the link in today's episode, and it's a mere $17.99 for the paperback. And obviously Audible, you can either pay, or if you have a monthly membership, it's just a credit. So great value there.
I encourage you to get both because it's a great read, and also it's a great listen because your sexy radio voice is the one who reads the book. So the voice I get to listen to every day.
The radio voice and the radio face.
Not at all. Not at all. But that's fantastic, Kev. So I highly recommend it to all of our freedom fighters out there. Now let's get back to our discussion on cultivating self-care.
All right. So building a supportive network is absolutely crucial for the success of couple entrepreneurship. Here's how to harness the power of community to propel both your business and your relationships forward.
So number one is to embrace the concept of social capital. So our action step for you is to actually identify 3 key relationships in your network that you will nurture this week.
So social capital, think of this. We've heard this, said many times, but your network is your net worth. And it's not about getting things or taking advantage of people. It's not about manipulating, but it's realizing that truly, and you and I have been having this conversation. I mean, just yesterday we were talking about how my relationship with John Maxwell and that organization is helping another cause, another nonprofit that we're incredibly passionate about further their mission. And over and over and over, we've either been able to connect people that we know to important people that they need to get whatever they need to get done, or other people have connected us to the people and resources that we need. So that's why we talk about upgrade your circle. It's why we talk about running with Alliance, but social capital, that network, being your net worth, is something that I think most people, they underestimate the power of.
And our world actually gets smaller the older we get, and just the more connections we do with people. And when you start to have like-minded values, then you start to quickly meet people that you want to do more life with. And
Absolutely,
again, we're like the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. So most of us, that's a spouse, family members, coworkers, perhaps. But as you get outside of that concentric circle, it's truly the people that are going to lift you up in both your relationships and your work field. And they're going to help you in your business partnerships and all those things. And so it's a lot of connecting with people to figure out who are the right people, how can you serve others through networking connections, and how can you find the right people to do business and life with? Because we would much rather take a referral from someone in a business that we're looking to utilize for ourselves, because it's someone that we know and trust who is recommending someone they know and trust. And it's actually how referrals work in our business a lot. Actually, we get a lot of referrals from our current clients who are happy with their progress, and they know their friends and family will be well taken care of with us. But this is really important for us. And it's something important to teach your kids too, because, the associations, the people they spend time with as teenagers, they're kind of figuring that out. And many times they're still learning the right people to spend time with. But if you walk them through this in those teenage years and teach them to look for people they want to do life with long-term, there can be a lot of learning lessons along the way.
Yeah. So your action step for embracing the concept of social capital is to identify 3 key relationships in your network that you can nurture this week. And ways to nurture that is pick up the phone, send a text. You and I love voice messages. It's a great way to just send it's like sending a text message, but a little more just connection to it. Just tell people, hey, I'm thinking of you. If you're a praying type, I'm praying for you. How can I pray for you? But just build that relationship, connect with people. And then remember that high trust communities are more likely to support couple-run businesses. So once again, you and I, when we have trust and we call it relationship equity, we're quick to do business with those people. Like we would rather do people. I mean, sometimes things get sticky. But we would rather use vendors and service providers that share our values, that we know are investing in the kingdom. They're not using it just for their own personal greed and self-service, we just trust them. So that's a great way to do business.
Okay, number 2 is to engage actively with your community. So this is really about finding things local to you, like businesses, events, or workshops that you can attend together in the next month. Finding a way to get yourselves in the room to make those connections with those people. I actually am starting a Christian women's networking group in August because I wanted to create a space like that where I could bring in women who love our country, they love Jesus, they're interested in, they love their families, and they also want to grow their businesses. And I'm looking for a handful of those ladies to get started with. But sometimes you can find it, and sometimes you also need to create it in your own community. Yeah,
and what you're creating, you're intentionally getting outside of our business sphere. So obviously, we're huge fans of direct sales or network marketing. Those types of home-based businesses, they're phenomenal ways for people to make extra money or even create a whole new legitimate full-time income that could far surpass anything they could do working a job. But a lot of times the tendency is to hang out just with those types of people in your specific business. And there's a lot that can be gained from it. The specifics, intricacies of how your business works, you're going to need to learn from other people in your business. The flip side is there's some blind sides. And sometimes we can learn things from people who are outside in either different companies in direct sales or that are in different businesses, whether it's a brick and mortar or some other type of service provider. But getting that variety that, is really important. So I know what you're creating is intentionally a collection of people outside of what we do.
Which is, not easy because I actually love the people I work with a lot, which is a privilege. And another thing about network marketing that can be incredible is in some ways, you get to choose your coworkers. And so I love the people that we get to work with, and it's really important to me to spend time with them. But I'm also looking to expand my reach and also my knowledge base and just to put myself in different spaces. So I feel like that's going to be important. And, maybe you want to go to a workshop to learn a new skill set, or maybe one of you is really interested and good at something, but the other person in the partnership is not. And so they come along just to learn that avenue, that aspect of business. And it allows you to have like-minded discussion about things that you might want to work on or implement in your family or your business.
All right. So tip is that community engagement leads to increased business success and a stronger sense of belonging.
Yeah. Totally agree with that one. Okay, number 3, seek out diverse perspectives and collaborations. This means you're looking for people with similar values, but maybe diverse backgrounds.
Yeah, and so this, unfortunately, a little over a week ago, we had an example of what goes wrong when you pursue diversity for the sake of diversity. President Trump got shot, and the Secret Service agent that had no business being on that stage was a DEI hire. Was hired for the sake of diversity, and we've got no issues.
Do we know this for sure, or is this just an assumption?
Obviously, the fact that she was there, she's completely unqualified to be able to be a
Taking
protector.
A little political break here,
yes,
people.
To be protecting someone like a president or presidential candidate, you have to be able to remove that person, carry that person if they were incapacitated. She was clearly incapable of doing that. If she did everything else, if she knew how to holster her gun without looking. Ouch. She's still incapable of carrying the president, President Trump, especially because he's a pretty large guy. There's very few men that honestly would be able to do that. So we are not fans of diversity for the sake of diversity, but we understand that there's a tremendous amount that can be gained from it. We have friends from multiple cultural backgrounds, and one of the really cool things is, we love having family meals with these people because it exposes us, it's great conversation for our kids to learn what was life like in India, what was life like in Mexico. They get to experience the food, and they just learn so much and get outside of our, their sheltered Gilbert, Arizona communities. But what we found is that it's really important that the benefit of diversity comes from having similar values, but diverse backgrounds. Mm-hmm. And go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, so our action step for you is actually to reach out to an entrepreneur from a different background for a coffee meetup. And you had a great experience of this just recently.
Yeah. So I talked about, I was just on this amazing trip with John Maxwell. There was about, I think 100, maybe 150 people on the trip. And just absolute rock stars. I posted about this, but I felt like a minnow in the ocean here because.
But you're my minnow.
Well, yes, I am your minnow. But the people I was dealing with, these are people who have had multiple businesses, like million and billion dollar businesses, inventors, like hundreds of patents, just absolute rock stars, and some of the most humble people. And you're slowly hearing about, like, they've done this, they've done that, they've owned this, they've sold that. But one of the guys that I immediately connected with, this guy, brother Adele, fellow Marine. We just awesome friend. Very quickly we bonded. But
over
he's
tank tops? Is this
nope,
the one you bonded
that's
over
Chris.
tank tops?
That is Chris. That's the other Marine.
Okay.
But Adele, he came to this country. He was born in Jordan. No. Anyways, he was born in the Middle East somewhere. I think it was Jordan. In a single room house.
Wow. And
had a large number of siblings, came to this country, and absolutely loves America. He is extremely wealthy, and has owned every exotic car that our son has dreamed of. I was showing Carson pictures of all these different cars that he's owned, and sold most of what he has and has given it to charity. Wow. And is just on this kind of a humanitarian mission. He's an amazing guy. But hearing his perspective was it was mind blowing. And it was really cool for Carson, our son, to have this conversation with someone, to realize, this is people who come to this country as immigrants have a whole different level of appreciation for what is possible. And it's really cool for me to hear that, but I really enjoy our kids hearing those stories.
Yeah, Carson's 17, so I mean, it really sets him up for a little bit of a different worldview.
Yep.
And who is the author of that book, Immigrant Edge, that we read?
Brian Buffini.
Yes, that's an excellent book on leadership and just understanding the value of the work ethic that many immigrants come in with, and just what that
and
looks
why
like.
Immigrants are actually significantly more successful than native-born Americans.
Absolutely. Okay, and so just a note that diverse communities inspire and often, and offer perspectives that bust your paradigms. And you just kind of gave a great example of that.
Yep. All right. So build a support system beyond your spouse. This is important.
No, I'm just kidding. We actually totally believe in this, and it's really important because we love doing life and business together, but it's really important to have outside mentorship, outside accountability, and outside friendship.
So either join or create the mastermind group, right? You talked about you're doing this. I think that, I've talked about this in the past, that when we first moved here, I joined, you joined several women's Bible studies. Those are a great place to at least start if you're in a new area. I tried a couple different men's groups from different churches, found one that I liked. And then, it was the right thing for a season, but I made some great connections. I learned about some great books through that. And, just try things for a season. I do recommend that as a general rule, you commit to probably 3 to 6 months at a minimum. We've found it's very difficult to truly make good relationships in less than 6 months.
You need time for that.
It takes about 9 to 12 months really to build a relationship. So, but at times you might join something and the culture is so different that you're like, okay, like once again, if your values don't align, like you were a part of a women's Bible study where it was kind of the demographic was barefoot and pregnant, and that was definitely not you. And so the values of really esteeming the Proverbs 31 women didn't exist in that group. And so you realized it's time to move on and find a different one.
Exactly. Because I'm a woman who is passionate about being a mom and a wife, but also wants to do things that impact the kingdom outside of our family life. And you can have the both and. It takes intentionality, but it really can be developed. And that's who I surround myself with now in a couple different masterminds. Well, one specific mastermind with Brooke Thomas, and then the networking group that I'm creating. But this also talks about, joining mastermind groups specifically for couples. And like we're going to one in November, I think, with John and Lisa Bevere, where we go and it's developed for, it's around, there are a lot of couples that are there. I don't know if it's designed specifically for couples, but it's definitely John and Lisa speaking into business and life and marriage and families. And it's really helpful for us because we just have a different level of conversation when we're going together and we're seeing and hearing the same material, and it gives us a lot to talk about and process.
So a robust community will help you navigate challenges and celebrate successes. I can share, I've talked about my Eagles group a lot, and we've had a 2024 and the end of 2023 was a very rough season where just a lot of us were traveling, and we were finally back in the rhythm of getting together. And I mean, I just get so much fuel from meeting with these guys. We really cool. Our older two boys within the last month, both of them have been rebaptized. We've had an incredible journey with them over the last year, and it was really, it was awesome. One of my friends from the Eagles group was like, Kevin, we want to hear about this. Like, they've been praying for me, for us as parents, and they've been praying for our kids. And so that celebration is awesome to have, and also to know that they're legitimately praying for you, not just saying, oh, praying for you, like actually praying for me, and create that group. I've told these guys that I'm grateful that I know that if they saw me screwing up in marriage or parenting, that they have, I've given them permission, and we mutually have given each other permission, and I can actually count on them to basically kick me in the nuts if they need to, and knock some sense into me.
Thank you, gentlemen. Really, iron sharpening iron, which is a biblical value. And so I think that's amazing. And then I have a similar thing with our Queen's Table ladies that I'm in. I mean, I sent them pictures, video of the baptism, and a voice text, because same thing, they had walked us through that. We have a small group from our former church that, we have met with that is full of couples. That same thing, they pray for us, they support us. And then we also have our AZ Freedom Crew. So we actually have a number of different places as couples that we have high level protected friendships where, they're spirit led and there's accountability and there's true caring. Not all of them are business related, but they're definitely centered around our family values. And that's really important for us to have.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Number 5 is to step out of your comfort zone. Who's excited to do that? So the action step is to volunteer to speak at a local event about your entrepreneurial journey. And I think that's a powerful way to just put yourself in front of others, to get your story straight in your own head and be able to tell it well, and to invite other people into partnership with you.
Yeah. So how the reality is, you can volunteer, but like, what are some practical, where are some places people can go? Because you can't just say, hey, I'm volunteering to speak, right? You need the right venue to do that. So do you have any recommendations how people can do that?
You might want to go through a chamber of commerce, or it really helps to talk to other people in business in your community, because they are often connected to other networking groups, and you can speak sometimes at a place of faith, or maybe even at your kid's school on whatever your expertise is. And that gives you opportunity to meet other business owners and figure out where the needs are in your community for your voice and the value that you bring. Yeah.
So Chamber of Commerce, BNI, I think that stands for Business Networking International, something like that. Mm-hmm. Christian Business Networking is another group. So networking groups are, and most of those types of groups, they actually rotate through the members actually having to speak.
Right.
Something else that you can do is Dale Carnegie is a course that I know some of my family members have done. And then Toastmasters is another organization where it's very structured. They really help you become a good professional public speaker, and they require you to make presentations, some that are on the spot, some that you prepare for. But those are some options for people. Look, if you don't naturally have a way to actually be able to speak.
Absolutely. And our tip is that growth happens when you're willing to be uncomfortable and persistent. And we have experienced this in our personal life and in our business life as well. I mean, I can remember the first time I was asked to speak, even on stage at, one of our conventions or something. And I definitely was excited and nervous. I spent, a lot of time preparing for it. I think one of my early opportunities was at a smaller venue, and we were actually late leaving the house. We got lost on the way there. I kind of lost my mind walking in because I felt very stressed. I felt like I was totally dropping the ball. If we haven't shared this before, responsibility is one of my top 5 strength finders. And so I hate to be late to things, and I hate to be unprepared. So one of my nightmares that I have every once in a while is actually that I am not prepared in where I'm supposed to be, when I'm supposed to be, or I can't get packed up to leave for a trip and everyone's waiting on me. It's just it's like a weird part of my personality. But because of that, that's my greatest fear. Not spiders, not serial killers. It's not being on time for whatever I'm supposed to be. But anyway, you were driving us. We went the wrong way on the freeway or took the wrong exit or something. We had one of our current leaders with us now early in our career. And I walked in and I was just huffing and puffing. And I had a mentor tell me later, he said, when you walked in like that, it made it look like it was all about you. And the truth is, nobody else cared. You weren't actually late. You had time, even if you weren't as early as you wanted to be. And it just reminded me that so often it's like I might have been going through all those things in my mind, but how I show up at the event before I speak even was so important for me to walk in and just be a calm presence. And I'm hoping that I've matured since then. And so now getting on stage in front of people is really a lot more fun and a lot more peaceful. I spend a lot of time preparing and praying and just enjoying the process. But again, growth happens when you're willing to be uncomfortable and persistent, because even after some rough ones, I didn't give up. I just kept, saying yes and working on those skill sets.
And the great thing is, ever since that mentor shared that wisdom with you, I'm at liberty to say, remember, Bekah, it's not about you.
Yes. Okay. Remember, freedom fighters, you are not meant to do this alone. By intentionally building your tribe, you're setting yourself up for success in both business and marriage. Boy, I can totally agree with that.
Yeah. And don't wait for an invitation to someone else's table. Start building your own community today. Reach out, connect, and watch how it transforms your entrepreneurial journey and your life. And my encouragement is reach up. Do not settle. Don't reach down. If you think about where people are at as far as making it through life, from a skill set, from a developmental standpoint, reach up. Think about people who are 1 or 2 rungs ahead of you and invite them. And what I've found is the vast majority are willing to say yes. And because we know that you become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And so it's so important that as you're building this community, you're building with people who are going to bring you up, that are going upstream versus people that are going downstream.
And you can reach your hand back down and help someone. But again, you want to make sure you're balancing that with your own personal growth, because so many times we just reach down because it makes us feel good, because we're not intimidated by the people on, who are not as far along in their journey. And so we feel like we're much more capable to lead those types of people, and we are more willing to give our time and attention to them, but we will not grow from that experience, and we can end up pouring from an empty cup. So you have to have the mentorship both up, or you need to have the mentorship and the pouring in up to be able to pour down as well. And then your network truly is your net worth in more ways than one. So go out there and create the supportive community that you need to thrive.
And as always, we believe in you, the uncommon freedom that you're fighting for. Keep building, keep connecting, and keep moving forward.
See you next time, Freedom Fighters.